Today on Shoebat.com, we're going to be talking with Martin Sellner, the head of the Austrian Identitarian movement. What is the Identitarian movement? Is it really just a group of patriots who are protecting their country from Islamization? Or is it something much darker underneath the surface? Find out today.
Ihr sagt es! Und ihr, Priester, PEGIDA, ihr könnt stolz auf euch sein, denn ihr habt den Widerstand vom Stammtisch auf die Straße getragen und dort gehört er auch hin! Und unser Widerstand in Österreich hat Früchte gezeigt. Der Begriff Festung Europa, den wir erstmals vor 2 Jahren bei einer Kundgebung verwendet hatten, wurde mittlerweile sogar schon von der Innenministerin verwendet.
This is Martin Sellner. He is the head of the Identitarian movement in Austria and in Germany. Supposedly, the Identitarian movement is working to stop the Islamization of Europe. But we found some quite disturbing things on their website. Things that pertain to imperialism and racism. When we interviewed Mr. Sellner on this, he wasn't too happy. In fact, he doesn't want the interview published.
So you will not publish this video. And that given this unexpected nature of the interview, that maybe I will not want you to publish it. If I don't want you to publish it, and you publish it, I can take it down all the time I want.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello, sorry.
No worries. Can you see me?
I'm online now.
Can you see me?
I can see you now. Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
I can't see you, but
okay.
I can hear you.
I think we're good then. For some reason the I don't know. For some reason the camera doesn't want to come up, but I'm filming right now, so we're recording right now actually.
Ah, cool.
Yes, yes.
So do you do it live or?
No, pre-recorded. Shoebat.com.
Okay.
I don't know how familiar you are with Shoebat.com.
I've looked at the web page and scrolled through your posts, but maybe you can give me an introduction from your side.
Oh no,
so,
it's Shoebat.com. It's we've been doing work exposing like Islam, Islamization, Christian persecution, anti-Christian violence done by Muslim terrorists. But I was checking out your guys' movement for a little bit, and we actually wrote a lot up on PEGIDA. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. PEGIDA.
Ah, I see. So you had collaborations with PEGIDA.
No, I don't. I did research on it, and we wrote on PEGIDA.
Yes.
A few times.
Yes. Cool.
But anyway, so how's everything going over there in Austria?
Yeah, in fact, it's well, I can't say fine. It's we are still suffering, from the consequences of this of the massive immigration and of the refugees welcome crisis. It's like it's becoming a daily thing that you hear about rape or something like that. So it's really I would say a very problematic situation. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, we see patriotic movements, patriotic parties on the rise, mm-hmm. and I think this will continue during the next months in Austria and Europe.
Very well. And so you're the head of a movement called the Identitarians. Is that correct?
Exactly. In fact, in Austria, I'm the co-leader of the Identitarian movement, but I also co-founded it in Germany. So I have a lot to do with the movement in Europe.
Yeah, I've been watching your videos. You've been doing these big speeches and all that. It's quite interesting. In Germany, in Dresden, you did a speech, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. We were several times we were invited to PEGIDA. We make manifestations, we make actions, and we see ourselves a patriotic activist group who also wants to take this form of political protest that has been occupied by the political left and somehow appropriated for conservative and patriotic ideas.
Yeah. You also do work with one of the guys up there in PEGIDA. His name is Gotz Kubitschek. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Yeah, C-session and all that stuff.
He's a conservative intellectual, you can say, in Germany, and he's also very influential in Germany. He has his own magazine, and he's also working closely together with PEGIDA. And in a way, you could say Kubitschek is the intellectual guy, and PEGIDA is the mass movement with demonstrations, and the Identitarians is like kind of the avant-garde activist movement.
Yeah,
that's how we see ourselves.
Identitarian is more for the youth. From my own observation.
Exactly.
More for the young people.
We are more youth-orientated.
Yes. Anyway, so I see behind you, you have a poster of Yukio Mishima.
Exactly, but you see it in the mirror. It's in fact, that's Mishima. Then you have the map of the city of Vienna. And if you look here, then you have Prince Eugen, the guy who freed Belgrade and the European East from the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, the Battle of Vienna and all that stuff. Yes, I've read about that. But, I've actually done a lot of reading on Yukio Mishima. And
cool.
Yeah, I've been reading about him for years, actually. And I've read through some of his stuff, Confessions of a Mask. The what do you call it? The horse... I forget the name of the book. The horse.
Runaway horses.
Runaway
Horses. That's a cool
and
thing.
I watched all of his interviews, and he committed seppuku.
So that's maybe we can see maybe like things that have been influential on the right wing now in Germany, Austria, and Europe. So thinkers like Spengler, and. About conservative thinkers, Heidegger, philosophers.
Yeah, Julius Evola and Spengler and Carl Schmitt and even Friedrich Nietzsche.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
All in all, we see ourselves as a new right movement, and we have a very very rich cultural and intellectual history and background, because we also have pan-European movement. So, for example, in France, the intellectual background is much more, in a loyalist and regionalist and Catholic way. In other countries, there are more thinkers like Nietzsche, and we embrace everything of that as the whole heritage of Europe in a way.
But I'm just curious, like. From my reading on Yukio Mishima, Yukio Mishima was a person who fantasized about cannibalism. He had a lot of very, very what some would call strange, deviant, like homosexual, even fantasizing about young boys. I'm just wondering, why would you choose someone like that? Even if I go to the website, Phalanx Europa, I see a poster of Yukio, and you have one in your room right there. So it's why pick someone like that?
In fact, I have all the Phalanx Europa posters in my room, because I'm running the company with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So that's also a reason why I have it in my room. But you see, I think Mishima is he's a cool guy. And there's cool images of him, and in a way, for a lot of people, he stands for this for a futile but very idealistic revolt against modernization in Japan. That's I think the position he stands for. In fact, I have to say, when I read the Confessions of a Mask, I was also very shocked, and in a way also repelled by that. But I don't know if that's this is really him as a person, you know, or if he just was writing about it. I don't think that he really committed everything he wrote about. In a way, I think he's a very tragic, a very interesting figure. So I also did, you know, I studied philosophy. I also did a paper on him and on Japanese philosophy. I don't know if you how do you know about it?
No, no, I don't.
The School of Kyoto.
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, it's very interesting. In fact, Mishima is like also a figure for Japanese conservatism.
Yes,
and
I know that.
Japanese
that I do know.
Yeah,
Very popular.
So, in a way, you also need figures and symbols, you know, and iconic images. Yeah, and just like Nietzsche, his whole life and his and his legacy is something you can print on a T-shirt, and you can't do that with.
I mean,
with Heidegger so much, you know.
But even on, for example, I was looking through the magazine that's ran by Gotz Kubitschek, C-Session, and it says here,
exactly, yeah.
For example, there's an article written by Daniel Napierkowski, and it says here, already there are numerous themes that are drawn like red threads through Mishima's work: the death affection, the erotic affection for boys, the conspicuous emphasis on breasts, and above all, armpits on male bodies.
Yeah,
it's very disturbing stuff, and I'm curious
as
to why you would pick someone like that as one of your images for your movement.
Well, you see, he's not an. I think you have to discern here. So he's not a movement of he's not an image of the Identitarian movement. So not at all. In fact,
you have him on posters.
Sorry,
you have him on posters. You have a T-shirt with him. You have articles talking about him. Even your own magazine, even the magazine C-Session, acknowledges.
Yeah, exactly. The right about him, but you know, as I said, you have to make a difference between like magazines like this, like Secessions and other stuff, and the official Identitarian movement, because there are, in European conservatism, there are a lot of different tribes and branches, and all of them somehow at the moment unite in the Identitarian movement. And a lot of people in the Identitarian movement don't even know Mishima and don't care about him, or might even dislike him for several reasons. So I think that he's not like, you know, an iconic figure of the Identitarian movement.
But I'm talking about what's on your guys' website, for example, on Phalanx Europa. You even romanticize Mishima with a lot of this flowery language, like Yukio Mishima.
Yeah.
You know, he's this bohemian, samurai, beauty, revolution, genius. A lot of this romanticization of Yukio Mishima. I mean, the guy was well. Just to give you some examples on how sick this guy was. I mean, Yukio Mishima, as affirmed by the Japanese Psychoanalytical Society, he sexually fantasized about murder, cannibalism, even masturbating over such thoughts, as he recounted in his book Confessions of a Mask. And then he says here, my inherent deficiency of blood had first implanted in me the impulsive dream of bloodshed, and in its turn, that impulse had caused me to lose more and more of the stuff of blood. I'm talking about masturbating about cannibalistic fantasies. I mean, why would anybody want to pick such an individual? I mean, are you proud about the fact that you, in a way, romanticize this individual?
No, but you know, Ted, I don't know. Did you also read works of Mishima?
I'm reading his work right now. I'm reading his work. I found it directly from his book, Confessions of a Mask. Quote: "The weapons of my imagination slaughtered many Grecian soldiers, many white slaves in Arabia," and he also fantasized about, for example, according to his biographer Henry Scott Stokes. His fantasies consisted of bloodshed, massacring youths, preferably whites, on large marble tables and eating parts of their bodies. I mean, this person fantasized about cannibalizing white people.
No.
Yes, he did.
You know,
this is according to his own biography.
I think that's a very narrow view of Mishima, because what you're talking about is his early work, and the book Confessions of a Mask was the first book he ever written, and in this time he was part of these bohemian Japanese leftist intellectual culture. He even refused to serve in the army because he was too weak. and was ill all the time. And he only read European existentialist authors, and in a way was a very individualistic and liberal writer. But if you look at the later work that he was written, he rediscovered the Japanese French samurai culture and wrote a very good and deep commentary about the Hagakure, the Japanese samurai and ethics codex. Then he started to do bodybuilding, and also wrote a book about it, Sun and Steel, where he's in a way in a very very genius and very good way confronting this kind of liberal intellectualism with idea of physical training.
But he never left. But he never
so
left.
you see,
He never left his sexual deviancies, though. He never left it. In fact, in one of his biographies, written by Naoki Inose, in one of his biographies,
he didn't focus on them in his writings. That's what makes an interesting figure.
And actually, a quote from him, from one of his biographers, Naoki Inose. He said, "Whenever I see a pretty boy, I want to splash oil all over him, light it, and burn him."
I don't know where he made this quote, but
it's from one of his biographers.
Yeah, but that's I think you don't have to fully embrace everything somebody writes or thinks or has ever written, to see somebody as an iconic figure.
So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, but I think you're also a bit over exaggerating the importance of Mishima. I have all the Phalanx Europa posters in my room. I have one of Prince Eugen and other guys. And he's just like he's a symbol for in Europe or in the European New Right for the Japanese samurai culture. So he's the icon for that.
And the samurai culture was riddled with homosexuality, pederasty, even the idea that the samurai, when he sodomizes a young student, he will infuse into him his energies, his skill, all of the sick and very deviant.
I didn't know about that.
Yes. But same thing with the Spartans, by the way. It's the same thing with the Spartans.
Sorry?
It's the same thing with the Spartans.
There's a debate about what is this institution of the Spartan teacher and his pupil meant, but I think it's not necessary, to reject the whole Japanese samurai culture. You can admire it in a way as an equivalent or something, comparable to the European chivalry, and that's why we have Mishima on this posters, because he's like Europe. He's become an icon for a modern version of a Japanese samurai. That's the thing.
I doubt,
but as I said,
I doubt that any of the great Christians and the great Catholic warriors who fought against the Ottoman Empire would be in favor of someone like Yukio Mishima. I mean, I doubt that, for example, Don Juan of Austria, who fought the Ottomans in the Battle of Lepanto, would be like, "Oh yes, let's use Yukio Mishima." I really doubt that.
I don't think so, but that's for us as a Identitarian movement. For us, of course, European warriors and European heroes are the main icons. Yeah, and Mishima is I think I understand now why he's irritating you so much, but for me,
it's disturbing. Sorry? It's not irritating me. I just find it very disturbing.
Yeah, I understand it, but
it's like
why you find it irritating that you can find him on posters or somewhere else? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have people who put ISIS on their T-shirts, and ISIS is bad. You're like, it's just a symbol. It's not a bad thing. I mean, you have people who glamorize Sayyid Qutb. Do you know who Sayyid Qutb is, Martin?
Of course.
Yes, he was an ideologue for the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, I know him.
And he didn't kill anybody, but nonetheless, he provided the ideological framework for the Muslim Brotherhood, and I could easily use the same arguments that you're using. I could say, well, Sayyid Qutb said really bad things about Marxism, and he said some things about against the cultural, the imperialistic nature of American culture, how America spreads its materialism around the world. And you could say, well, you know what? I really like Said Qutb. I could say, well, hold on a second. He influenced the Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah, but you know, I can take some things that I like from him.
I think it's very it's something you cannot really compare, because
sure you can.
For a Japanese guy like Mishima, it's logical to like in a way yearn for a revival of Japanese traditional culture, and that's the whole deal about it, you know.
Said Qutb could say the same things. He wants to bring back traditional Middle Eastern culture and Muslim culture.
I think it's a bit different, Said Qutb.
I think that in fact Japanese warrior culture and Islamic warrior culture are both have a lot of similarities. Other than the facts that the Japanese were Shinto and Buddhist, and they worship the sun and all that, and the Muslims worship Allah and they follow the Prophet Muhammad. There's still a romanticization for suicide, the idea of sacrificing yourself for the cause. You find that also in both Islam and in the Japanese imperialistic religion, and also
you find this kind of warrior ethics in every warrior group and every order of knights with also a spiritual aspect to them, and you find it also in Christian warrior monk orders and covenants. So I think that's something that's too universal for every warrior culture, and in the medieval times every country had a warrior culture, to make a comparison there. I think the problem with Islam and where's the huge difference between, for example, like a traditional Japanese culture or someone else, is like this global dominance. They are seeking by military means, and I think that's something that's a huge problem with the Islamic warrior culture.
Have you ever heard of Shumei Okawa?
No.
Shumei Okawa was a guy who was very much involved in Imperial Japan during the Second World War, and he was actually found to be guilty of war crimes after the Second World War. He actually made, a little food for thought, he actually made the first Japanese Quran. And he was also very much in this warrior Japanese culture. He was very knowledgeable on it. In fact, he carried it out. He loved it. And he loved Islam because he saw in Islam a similarity with his own ideology. And he would eventually, after the Second World War, because the Americans thought he was crazy, so they put him in the crazy house. While he was in the crazy house, he was so crazy and that he made the first Japanese translation of the Quran. So Shumei Okawa would agree with my parallel, but not with Martin
Sellner. You find those guys, you find those guys anywhere. But if you look at the Japanese Shintoistic religion, it's very, very ethnocentric. They even rejected Buddhism in the Meiji era, and they would have never accepted like an Islamization or Islamic ideology. Also, the Islamic theology is completely different to the Japanese traditional Shintoistic religion. That is in fact very, very pluralistic. I see more similarities between, for example, Catholicism and Shintoism than between Shintoism and Islam.
Saint Francis Xavier would disagree with you, Martin. I don't know. Are you Catholic, by the way? You're from Austria. Are you Catholic?
Yeah.
You're Catholic. So am I. So am I, Martin. And Saint Francis of Xavier would completely disagree with you. In fact, Saint Francis of Xavier, he did the first mission to Japan, and when he left, he said that these people are absolute heathens. And it was completely contrary.
You have to understand. Of course, but there is I think there's a link between Catholicism and pagan worship of the countryside, of nature, and there's a like a possible link in there because of the Catholic understanding of the nature of Jesus Christ, who was a God as well as man, while in the Islamic tradition and in the also in the Jewish tradition, and some also in parts in the Gnostic or in the evangelical tradition, they keep this complete division between God and world. This forbid idolatry and so on. So I think that that in a religion or a tradition that is very much linked to the countryside, to nature, to worship of your ancestors, that all these parts you find very much in Catholicism. You know, if you look all the graveyards, if you look at the richness of these rituals in Europe, yeah. So I think that's something that's dividing in a way Catholicism, from the other monotheistic religions.
The church fathers would utterly disagree with you, Martin. Saint Justine Martyr, Saint Augustine even said in his yes. Saint
Justine the Martyr might disagree, but no, Saint Augustine wrote that they made this historic compromise between the Roman understanding of the natural order, Neoplatonism, and the Christian revelation. Thus Europe was created between
I've heard this argument
this connex between Greek philosophy and Christian revelation.
Martin, I've heard this argument before, but Saint Augustine even said that when Constantine built the beautiful city of Constantinople, he built it because he wanted to build a city that did not have the taint of paganism. And even in his city of God, and also you find this in his letters, he says that we have Christian kings, not pagan kings. And even St. Ambrose of Milan, who brought Augustine to the faith, St. Ambrose of Milan was extremely against the pagan senators when they said, let's bring an altar of victory into the Congress House. And St. Ambrose wrote a letter to the emperor saying, you shall do no such thing. You can read this in his letters. Against the idea of hold on. And even, for example, when you read Prudentius, the great Spanish scholar, he wrote a whole book against the pagan senators who wanted to bring the altar of victory. And he said that there can be no such thing as this sort of synthesis between the paganism and Catholicism. And St. Paul said that what do the things of God have to do with the things of Belial? You cannot sit in the table of demons and sit in the table of God. You cannot sit in the cup. You cannot drink the cup of Christ and drink the cup of devils. So there is no synthesis. I mean, now you bring up a Neoplatonic argument, the argument that they took things. Well, for example,
sorry, Ted, I just have to interrupt you. As I would like, we can continue this theological debate. But is this a subject you want to make the interview about?
Since we're talking about the Identitarian movement, we started talking about Yukio Mishima, and now because the subject of Yukio Mishima it overlaps with the subject of paganism. Now we're talking about paganism. But I just wanted to show why you are mistaken on that. Now,
no, I think it's a very interesting debate, but I think maybe it's a bit too complex, or
it's not complicated at all.
Too intellectual. I don't know. But
let's go into a different thing. Let's go into. What's that?
Just to end with, I think that in the idea of the word becoming flesh, the whole pagan worship of the nature and of the earth, of course it has had to be renewed and also fought in the beginning, but in a way became rejustified in a Christian version, because there is no absolute no absolute division and anymore between God and earth. And if you can worship the image of Jesus Christ on the cross, then you can also worship his mother. You can also worship the apostles, and this opens up a whole the whole world of worshipping like relics and places and sacred places and so on, and that's in fact what's making Catholicism so unique in my views. And
the ancient Hebrews had the
I
same
understand
thing.
that a lot of evangelical Christians don't like it very much, and would also love to forbid Christmas and so on. But I think that's in a way
I'm not an evangelical.
against the whole.
I'm not an evangelical. I don't hold to those views. But
You're not. I didn't want to put this on you, but
fathers, the church fathers would disagree with you. Maybe we can do a separate interview just on that. Let's talk about.
Why not?
Let's talk about something I found on the Identitarian website here that I wanted to talk to you about also. In 2014, one of your members, his name is Christoph A. I don't know if you know him. Christoph A. of the Identitaria, I can't pronounce it, Identitaire generation, interviewed a Japanese man by the name of Mitsuhiro Kimura, and he was the chairman of the Issue Kai. And he was asked in this interview, what is the meaning of the Yasukuni Shrine? To which he replied, and I'm not going to read the whole quote, it's kind of long, but essentially he says that it's good that the Japanese go to the Yasukuni Shrine. It's good that we honor our fallen soldiers, venerate the fallen soldiers, in fact, because in the Japanese culture, they call those who died in the Second World War, they call them kami, or the martyrs of Showa, the martyrs of the emperor, because Showa was the emperor. And it says here that the main significance of the shrine may be the mourning of Japanese warriors. And if you ever do research on the Yasukuni Shrine, you will find out that the Yasukuni Shrine is believed by the Japanese to hold the souls of war criminals. So are you proud of having such an interview where this Japanese, the leader of Mishima's organization, is saying, yeah, that's good, it's great?
I just was looking up. Well, I think that I'm not the one to judge what Japanese people are doing, and I support patriotism and pride of your own heritage in every country and every nation that exists. And for the Japanese identity, it's a very important part to go there and visit those shrines. And the internationalists or globalists, in Japan, who want to overcome and end with this tradition, just like they want to end all the other traditions in Europe and the rest of the world. I think it's a good thing if the Japanese refuse and continue with those traditions.
You think it's a good thing that Japan worships war criminals, for example?
No, I think it's a good. I think it's you have to in a way find a way to honor your ancestors who died and fought not only in one war but for all the wars, without being nationalistic, chauvinistic, and also denying the mistakes and the crimes you committed. And as far as I know, the Japanese politicians at the moment are still going to the shrine, but at the same time are accepting and in a way also addressing the crimes that Japan committed. And I think that's the same.
Let's look at the facts here. I mean, one of those worshipped in the Yasukuni Shrine is Iwana Matsui, who was one of the leaders responsible for the massacre of 250,000 Chinese people in Nanking in 1937. And they worship this man as a kami. In fact, you can go to the official website for the Yasukuni Shrine, and they say that these people are gods, kami, like kamikazes.
Yeah.
So you think it's
I don't know what's your intention about that?
My simple intention is to say, well, this is wrong. Don't you think that it's wrong to worship war criminals? And you bring this guy over who says, oh yeah, we're simply honoring our culture, and you say, oh, they're simply honoring their culture. I mean, Martin, you sound like a liberal, to be honest with you. Like, oh, honoring their culture, his culture, their culture, that's okay to honor their culture.
I think you sound. Sorry, Ted, but you sound like a typical left liberal in Europe at the moment.
Because I don't like war criminals?
We would talk about important issues that are concerning Europeans at the
quarter
moment.
of a million dead is not important.
But you are, you know, like searching for, I don't know what kind of interviews, and in a way, I really don't know what's your intention about that. What's your intention behind
simply
that?
Asking you.
As I could say, I don't support any war criminals or war crimes.
But this is part of the Japanese culture.
Japanese people want to go on with this tradition of this shrine, and
this is
you know, who am I to forbid them to go on with this tradition?
It sounds like exactly like the liberals. They say, well, the Aztecs plucked people's hearts out. The Spaniards came over and said, hey, this is wrong. And the liberal comes in and says, well, who are you to say? That's part of their culture. I don't necessarily disagree with it, you know? It's the same mentality. I don't necessarily agree with Aztecs plucking hearts out.
I don't think so.
But you see, you have here.
There's a big difference. I think there's a big difference, and I think that at the moment it's also a bit. I think at the moment I'm not concerned about Aztecs or whatever, you know, because Europe is being overrun, swamped, and by foreigners,
Martin,
becoming infected.
You're preaching to the
an
choir.
Islamized area at the moment.
You're preaching to the choir.
I really don't care about some Yasukuni shrine and
it's on your website.
And one interview. You know,
it's on your website.
It was one interview among many, and I really don't understand why I should you know, what's the link between condemning
the Identitarian website.
Doing their tradition and resisting the mass immigration and Islamization to Europe.
It's an evil tradition. It's an absolutely evil tradition. In fact, in the same interview, it says, the Generation Identitarian website stated that Mitsuhiro Kimura's organization, the Issyu-kai, founded by Mishima, your hero, the article says, it's commonly counted as New Right. Isn't that what you guys consider yourselves, New Right?
I don't know I don't know much about this organization in Japan. We don't have any affiliation with them. In fact, I even didn't know about this interview.
It's on the Identitarian website.
It's been a long time, but I have no problem interviewing them because I don't think that we are to judge, to tell the Japanese what kind of the tradition and what part of the tradition they have to get up with. I mean, come on, how? I think that's crazy.
This is the equivalent to someone saying, you know what? I want to revere the great spirit of Adolf Hitler, and don't say that doesn't happen, because I've heard it said before that the great spirit of Hitler lives on, and Hitler was a war criminal, and they are people who revere Hitler. So you have these Japanese people in Japan who are revering their Hitlers, their Class A war criminals, and you're saying, that's not a problem. Well, if that's the case, then you should have no problem with someone saying, hey, you know what, I want to revere the great warriors of Germany. I want to revere Adolf Hitler. I want to revere
come on, that's so stupid.
It's not stupid at all. It's the same thing.
That's the same thing.
Crazy. Iwana Matsui, I know that's all you can say, but Iwana Matsui butchered over 250,000 people in the massacre of Nanking, and thousands more women were raped in Nanking, and another war criminal that they worship is Akira Muto. In fact, in the Yasukuni shrine, they also worship Tojo, the guy who orchestrated the Pearl Harbor attacks on American soil. So as an American, I find that disgusting. It's like someone saying, I want to worship the 19 hijackers.
But you know, in America also, if you go to the graveyard of fallen soldiers, you know, you also think about, for example, those guys who dropped the atomic bomb, and the Russians also have their graveyard for their soldiers.
We're not talking about the Russians.
Discerning between them and those, you know, I really don't know what's your point about that. I just said that Japanese people can think about their ancestors and at the same time condemning the crimes they did, and I think that's what the Japanese politicians at the moment are doing. And if there was a Japanese movement who deny those crimes or would try to do them again, I would not support them. But you know, I really don't understand why we're talking about half
All
an
right, all
hour
right, all right,
about
Mark. Let's go
Japan,
to a different.
Shima. Well,
All right, Mark. Let's go to a different
yeah.
subject then. Let's go to a different subject here.
Okay.
Apparently, the war criminals don't really bother you, but let's go to a different one here. On your website, the Identitarian website, also on. I've seen it's a lot with the Identitarian movement. A lot of things about paganism, Thor and Odin and Wotan, going back to all these pre-Christian European gods, which seems to be a habit for pan-Europeanists. In an article that you wrote in 2013, this was something that you wrote. You talk about Tertullian, the ancient Christian theologian, and you say here, and I got it translated from German to English, but you say here, Tertullian's On the Spectacles, this is a book that Tertullian wrote, is the unconscious presentation of all Islamic invectives against the pagan bread and game culture in the West.
What do you mean?
This is something that you wrote. You spoke of Tertullian's
Can
book.
you send me the link because I would like to read it in German.
You wrote it in 2013.
Yeah, but like reread in German to better understand it.
Well, I mean, I'll just ask you this simple question. I mean, do you think that there is a similarity between the early Christians and the Muslim migrants?
No, I think it's a complete different thing what's happening now in Europe, because the Christianization of Europe was not done by demographics, but by conversations and other marriages and political. It was in fact a political process and a religious process, while the Islamization of Europe is not taking place by mass conversations, but by demographics and by massive immigration.
Okay. I'll go on into a narrow one then. Are you familiar with Marcus Villinger?
Yeah, he's not a part of a movement, but he wrote a book about the whole subject, I think 3 years ago.
Yes, he wrote a book, The Identitarian. He's an Austrian Identitarian, and he wrote a book. Villinger's works are published by Arctos, which is ran by Daniel Freiberg. And he says here that the truth is that Christianity is dead in Europe. And then he says here, if Europe is to renew itself, it must honor its pagan heritage. Something that you agree with, or?
No, I think that Christianity and pagan religions are both part of European traditions, and I think that the Christian Church at the moment, Christianity in Western Europe, is really something that's not very much alive anymore. But in Eastern Europe, you have Orthodoxy that's very strong and also very patriotic. And I think that at the moment, people, whether they are agnostics, atheistic, or pagan or Christian, in a way should join together
So you wouldn't mind.
Fight against the most imminent threat.
You wouldn't mind Europe going back to paganism, going back to its pagan roots.
No, I think that's
people
not something that's realistic. But I think that people,
you wouldn't mind seeing people going back to Odin and Thor and this Wiccan religion.
People want to do that. I will not force them to
We're not talking about force here. I'm asking you. You wouldn't have any problem with Europeans going back to their pagan roots.
If some people want to do that, they can do that, and I think that our movement is a perfect example that those two, as I would say, fractions of conservatism can coexist, because we have a lot of very devout Catholics and Christians in the movement, as well as atheists who don't care about religion, as well as people who are interested in paganism.
So then, well, let me ask you this question. I mean, the pagan religion back in the ancient times, I mean, that's part of the tradition of Europe, right? You bring up the tradition of Europe and the roots of Europe and all that. But when you read the history of paganism, for example, the earliest Christians would not agree with you. In fact, the earliest Christians were butchered by the pagans. I mean, look at the martyrs, Catholic martyrs, Saint Blandina, Saint Attalus. These people were butchered in Europe by the pagans. They were cooked alive. They were fed to wild animals. the pagan Rome was absolutely evil. And you look at the Northern Europeans, look at all these things. I mean, it was so evil and anti-Christian. Are you proud of this history? Are you proud of paganism? Are you proud of people going back to that religion? This back to roots religion? This is like in Mexico when they say, let's go back to the Aztec religion. Let's go back to the religion of our ancestors. And they end up worshiping Tonatiuh. And look at Mexico now. It's an absolute mess. It's an absolute mess.
I think that,
so you want Europe to go back into this very despotic religion called paganism.
Not at all. I never said that. I never said that. I just said that I embraced the wholeness of European tradition, and I think as a European you can be proud, of course, of the Christian European culture and the medieval Christian Europe, but as well of the ancient Greece and Roman Europe that are also part of the European soul. Mm-hmm. Maybe where do you come from, Ted?
I was born in the U.S. So I mean,
yeah, maybe you don't understand this.
Believe me, I understand.
You don't have this kind of culture.
Martin,
you are in fact a very young country, and you don't understand that you can also have a broader part of history. And a lot of people say that Europe was founded on three hills. Like the
kind of like the gates of hell. Rome, kind of like the gates of hell.
And I think I really think that you are on a very wrong path here. You're really trying to create differences.
I'm following history, Martin.
I think you're a bit of zealot, and I think our movement and what I see at the moment in the whole right-wing movement, in conservative movement in Europe, is that there's a great possibility of collaboration between people of different religious beliefs.
Okay, so what if people want to go back to Islam? So what if people want to go back to Islam?
Sorry?
So you know what? I want to go to Islam. I'm an Iranian, and I want to go to Islam. I want to go to Sufism.
What do you mean now?
I mean, you're saying there's nothing wrong with people wanting to go back to the religion. So if that's the case, then let's say people in Turkey. Turkey's a country that has been inundated with liberalism and modernism and westernization, and they'll say, "Well, I want to go back to Sufism. I want to go back to the religion of the Janissarian. I want to go back to the roots of my ancestors. The Janissarians. You know who the Janissarians were? They were warriors who fought for the Ottoman Empire.
I don't understand it now in English. Sorry, Janissarians?
Janissarian, warriors for the Ottoman Empire. They want to go back to the religion of Sufism.
the Yanichan. I understand, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's the same way of thinking. Like, let's go back to our roots. Let's go back to our
I don't
pagan
think it's the same
roots.
way of
Let's
thinking.
put rune symbols on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's another guy who I know the Identitarian movement has a liking for. It's Alain de Benoit, and Alain de Benoit also is someone who advocates for going back to paganism, and Alain de Benoit even says that the pagan religions are intolerant. In fact, he says here, he talks about how the Semitic religions, are intolerant religions, and it's the pagan religion that is tolerant. And if you read Eusebius's ecclesiastical history, he talks about how the early Christians, for example, in Gaul, and this is also recorded by Saint Irenaeus of Leon, talks about how the early Christians were put on chairs made of steel and cooked alive by pagans, and the pagans were just in ecstasy watching Christians get cooked alive. And we can also go into detail about human sacrifice amongst the pagans. And even Justine Martyr talks about how the ancient people in Italy would sacrifice people to the god Saturnus. Also, you can even look at Firmicus Maturnus, the great Christian scholar, who was also a senator and a former pagan, talks about how the pagans would commit human sacrifices, how people who worship Mars were very violent and very warlike. The early Christians even talk about how they would throw people into rivers to drown them. I mean, this is the pagan roots. You want to go back to paganism? When do you stop? When do you stop?
That's not what Alain Benoit wanted. But he's in fact in his book about neo-paganism was also something that he wrote in his young age. I think he's now that is older, in a way come to term. There are a lot of very interesting debates between Alain de Benoit and Christian priests and theologians, and yeah. I don't think that anyone in Europe or the European right really thinks that Europe should return to paganism and and hunting Christian. I really completely I don't understand.
That's how it always ends, Martin. That's how it.
How
When
you
do you
come
stop?
how you come to these ideas? I think that's completely irrelevant. Sorry to be like that, but really, what you are talking about is nothing of my political reality, nothing I ever in any time think about. And if you would want me to denounce any member of the Identitarian movement who is not a practicing Christian, yeah, or he has an interest in paganism, or wearing a hammer of Thor and kick them out of our movement, or create a movement only. I think that's maybe that's in the direction you want to go in, and I think that's
you are
very
one thing. I'm not part of
very
I'm a Christian.
very stupid.
It's not stupid, Martin. I'm a Christian supremacist. I believe in the actions of the great Constantine, who was a Roman emperor, who defeated pagans. He defeated and vanquished Licinius.
Yeah, but
vanquished
that's
Maxentius.
Sorry.
So what? That's part of our European history. That's part of our Catholic
history. The only people
history.
now who are defending Christian culture in Christian Europe and Christian churches are a small fraction of European Christianity and European pagans and atheistic critics of Islam and immigration. And those are the only people who are defending Christian heritage, the whole European heritage. And the mainstream of the Christian church is in fact welcoming Islam, is even donating their churches to Islam. So I really don't see paganists and neo-pagans in Europe.
No one is
also given that they are a very tiny fraction as any threat. So I really don't understand how you ever can come up with this idea that those are a threat and will.
Martin, you sound like a Muslim apologist, Martin. You're like, this is a minority.
Come
it's not
on,
a big deal.
Come on,
you do, Martin. Now you have a group in Europe called the Soldiers of Odin.
I'm really thinking about, I'm really thinking about canceling this interview now because I think it's really getting now on a,
having a civil discussion.
You said I somehow have points of view that would also try to worship Hitler as a god. You said I'm like
it's the equivalent to worshiping a Japanese war criminal. It's crazy, the same thing, Martin. It's the same thing, Martin. When you worship a war criminal, it's the equivalent to worshiping a Nazi.
No.
Have you ever read about the massacre of Nanking, Martin?
No, I haven't read about it.
You should read. Go read Iris Chang's history on the massacre of Nanking. In fact, I can even recommend you some good books here. We have Brian Daizan Victoria, who was a Buddhist scholar, by the way, wrote about the massacre of Nanking, and I can read to you what the Japanese themselves had to say about the butcher of 250,000 people in Nanking. And now your organization, you yourself, by your own admission, says, I don't care what the Japanese do. I don't care if they want to worship the war criminal. They want to worship these people. I got no problem with that. That reveals a lot about the Identitarian movement. And I didn't. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You just said it yourself. I got it on recording, Martin. Now, I'm looking at the Identitarian movement. I mean, how crazy it is. You guys like scholars like Guillaume Fay, or Guillaume Fay. I don't know how to pronounce the French.
Guillaume Fay.
Well, in 2006, Guillaume Fay, speaking for the white separatist and eugenist organization, American Renaissance, he shared a platform with Jared Taylor and former KKK member David Duke. And he said, for example, he was asked, why did Europe accept immigrants? And Guillaume Fay said, quote, this is a direct quote from him, it is because of a sort of illness in the mind. This is a growing ideology, and beneath this ideology, of course, they are the Jewish thinkers. Do you subscribe to this idea that the Jews were behind the mass migration?
Not at all. I think that's a wrong idea. And I think that's but interesting enough, Guillaume Faye, who is not he's not the thinker of the identitarian movements. We have a lot of, as I said, we have a pluralistic inspiration as well. Especially in France, there are a lot of conservative and Catholic thinkers like Maurras and others who have great influence on the identitarian movement. But I don't subscribe to the idea that in fact massive immigration or the demographic replacement that we are seeing is some kind of a plot or the responsibility of the Jews. Also, even Guillaume Faye doesn't think like that. In a book he wrote a few years ago, he's also denouncing this idea. It's called I think the new question, or the new Jewish question, the new question of the Jews. I don't know how it's translated.
The Jewish question.
In this book, he's denouncing all these ideas, also revisionism and so on. So you should read that book as well.
Guillaume Faye said in the same lecture that we have to be very careful when speaking about the Jews because it is illegal to spout anti-Semitic or conspiracies about the Jews. So I think he's doing that more from a position of prudence and being elusive, because
I don't think so.
Then hold on. Now he shared a platform with David Duke. David Duke is a white supremacist, absolutely 100%. And David Duke's asked him, do you think that we should go against the Jews? Do you think that we should be combating the Jewish infiltration or the Jewish control of the United States government and the media? And Guillaume didn't say, hey, David Duke, shut the hell up. That's stupidity what you're saying. He said, in his big French accent, he says, of course, when you are a healer, you must combat the virus. Of course, the very cause is the Jewish mentality, the human rights mentality, and to a sort of Christianism. So here he blames, quote unquote, the Jewish mentality and quote unquote, Christianism. This is a thinker that you guys use.
Sorry?
This is a thinker that you guys use. You guys reference him. You look up to Guillaume Faye.
No, we reference a lot of thinkers, but
you reference him.
I don't think, and it's also not a stance of the identitarian movement, that the massive migration and the cultural downfall that we are experiencing now is caused by the Jews, or is like effect or symptom or whatever, that this ideology of humanism, modernism.
But it's obviously anti-Semitic what this guy is saying. It's obviously anti-Semitic. So does that anger you that Guillaume Faye speaks like this? Compares Jews and Christians to a virus. He says you must combat the virus.
For me in a way, it's astonishing, because I know the book of Guillaume Faye that I've quoted before, where he's denouncing these ideas. But you see, we don't have any official thinkers or any philosophers who are the heads or the think tanks of a movement.
But
we as a movement we have just clear standpoints, clear positions, political positions, and everybody who subscribes to this position can work in our movement, and that's the thing.
So anyone can work.
As I said before,
so Nazis can work in your movement. Nazi thinkers can be involved in your movement as well.
Because as our movement and as identitarian movement, we clearly distance ourselves from these ideologies, from the ideology of National Socialism. That's for us. It's one of our standpoints, and people from various backgrounds and dominions and religions and so on in European are trying to get in this movement for this idea.
Well, great. Then you guys should stop referencing Guillaume Faye. You guys should stop getting involved with these Japanese nationalists who revere war criminals. That's a start. I would also remove
You
that
had,
Yukio Mishima
one
poster.
interview on our page. I think that's not a very deep level of involvement.
But it's on your website though. It's part of your movement. You guys sell
Yeah,
posters.
yeah.
Listen,
I don't
somebody
disavow it. I
believed in
think
cannibalism
Japanese people.
and
I
believed
think
in
Japanese.
worshiping war criminals, I would completely distance myself from that individual.
From Yukio Mishima.
Yeah, you guys sit there and glorify and romanticize the leader of this movement. Now let's look at.
No, I personally think that Yukio Mishima is a very interesting author and figure. But as I said before, Yukio Mishima is not any figure or any iconic figure of the identitarian movement. You will find no leaflet, flyer, or whatever of our movement that is symbolizing him. And just as I personally find him interesting, a lot of other people in the identitarian movement have completely different interests. Well, yeah,
but you're the head of the identitarian. You're the head of the identitarian movement. So I wanted to speak with you, not to speak with some of the followers. And also Guillaume Faye. I mean, the fact that he spoke for the American Renaissance is also, I think, disturbing, because if you look at the official website for the American Renaissance, it says, and this is an exact quote from their website, eugenics is the obvious solution, but it is notoriously difficult to accomplish. Eugenics is the obvious solution. Would you speak, would Martin Sellner speak for American Renaissance? Would you share a platform with Jared Taylor and David Duke?
I don't think that we in Europe or as a European movement should get involved in the American situation. I think it's completely different, but I don't think that eugenics is the solution to the problems and the dangers and threats to our identity that we have at the moment.
Okay, so you wouldn't speak for American Renaissance. You wouldn't go if they invited you.
They haven't invited me yet. I would really have to check what the whole scene is about. For the whole alt-right thing in America, I don't have enough information at the moment to really make a clear statement about that. So
okay,
and sorry, but you have to understand at the moment, after talking to you 1 hour, I don't really see your point of view as an objective point of view.
It's very
because
objective.
So I don't think that you're very objective.
It's a very objective view.
I mean, very strange and very bizarre agenda.
Going into history.
Well,
going
do that, you know.
Going into history.
Sorry?
We're going into history. We're going into the history of paganism. We go into great thinkers of Christendom like Augustine and Constantine.
How long do you want to prolong with this interview?
I was thinking about going for an hour, but let's do one final question.
Okay. Also, I want to have all the quotes or what you're writing down.
I can do that.
Please send it to me before that I can authorize them. Okay.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do one final question. In your video,
in
one of your videos, I watched all your videos in English. You have a number of videos that you've done in English, and I watched those videos. And
your research.
I did a lot of research on you guys, actually. I did a video in which you said that you use Martin Luther as you use Martin Luther as a guide, as a model, and I find it strange that a Catholic would use someone who so vitriolically hated the Catholic Church.
Yeah, but you see, in this video, I think in the video before, I also was talking about Gandhi. This video was just a video about political theory, but the theory behind nonviolent action. Mm-hmm. And I was just using Luther. I think I even mentioned it in the video as an example, as a tactical example. What he did. I personally am not even a great fan of Martin Luther, because I think that the whole the process he started is part of European modernity and liberalism and so on. So I'm personally not a big fan of him, although I don't think that this issue is a very important issue at the moment.
I agree with you there. I'll read you this one last quote from a German thinker, Dietrich von Hildebrand, who was a Catholic scholar who combated Nazism. He says, whoever regards the unity, he says here, whoever regards the unity of the nation as the ultimate and most vital bond of community and does not maintain that the unity of the living member of the mystical body of Christ constitutes a more authentic, more profound, and more living unity, has also committed the error of nationalism. So, Martin, would you agree? Which one is superior to the other? Is the church superior to the ethnic race, the ethnic people, or is the ethnicity superior to the church?
I think your question is a very deep and complicated one. I think that only biology is not enough to really create a strong identity, and I think that the soul of a people, also has to have a higher and transcendent ideal to really create kind of a people and a culture. So that's also my personal critique on nationalism as part of modernism. That in a way it replaces
but you're not answering
God
but
with
you're
the
not,
people,
right? But so you think the
and
race?
the church.
So you think that you think the body of Christ is above the race?
Well, I think that let's say in a different way. I think that you need a transcendent ideal, to create and maintain a real ethnocultural identity. Let's put it like that.
So you would agree with Evola when he said that race and heredity must not only be understood in terms of naturalistic determinism, but essentially like forces, like creative energies from within, and to a certain extent even from above. You would agree with Evola when he spoke of the race coming from above and how the race and spirituality
I would not necessarily agree
must come together.
with Evola's concept of identity, because I think Evola's concept of identity was also in a way metaphysical. So, but I think that ethnicity and culture and that biology and spiritual sacred ideal are in fact like complementary things. And you cannot I think you cannot reduce what is national identity to just one side of the issue, and that's what I think about it. So,
but you didn't answer the question. Which one is which one is over which one? Is the race over the church, or is the body of Christ over the race?
I think you cannot between this hermeneutic circle of spirit and body, and culture and culture and ethnicity, you cannot say that one of the other is superior.
But St. Paul says there is no Jew. St. Paul tells us there is no Jew, there is no Greek, all are one in Christ Jesus.
Yeah, but this phase and this early phase, was later in a way how can I say it was replaced by a Europeanization, by a synthesis of a European culture and the Christian belief, and when the church when the Saint August and or the others understood that the parousia and that the coming of Christ didn't take place within the next week, in a way Christianity in a way how can I say it's very hard for me to express those very, very complex things and thoughts in English. Adapted would be a wrong word, but adapted also to the political world situation, to the plurality in the world, in time, and created like a Christian chivalry, something that was also very, very different to like, for example, when Jesus said, "You shall not," Saint Peter that he shall not draw his sword. So, in fact, in a way, these things emerged and came to life, and all these Christians movements, who like going back to the early Christians, most of them are this Jehovah's Witness style of movements who denying national identity, denying borders, think that the revelation, the coming of Christ is near, are very apocalyptic and are very heretic. And in a way, I think that this kind of thinking that is very, very common and very popular in the English-speaking world in America, because of your ancestors who go there, who were, most of them were you know, had like were very special Christian subgroups. I think that there's a tendency in the United States to somehow go into this understanding of Christianity, Catholicism. But that's not mine, and that's not the European one. You know?
But yet Augustine praised Constantine and said we do not no longer need or want pagan emperors. Did not want to go back to the roots. He wanted he wanted Christianity to transcend and surpass paganism. He didn't want to go back to the roots of the Roman Empire and the Roman race. So, Martin, we've talked about an hour. So I
he didn't want to, but he created a new kind of empire, a new kind of
Christian empire,
and a new kind of thinking that created the Roman Catholic Empire.
Yes, not one based on
that
paganism.
was also very was not denying its ethnocultural.
Not one based on paganism,
identity.
and wasn't one that was centered on race. Martin, we gotta get going. It was great talking to you.
It wasn't.
It was.
Yeah.
You want to finish? I'll give you the last word.
I'll give you the last word. I think that given the very interesting development of the speech, I think facing massive immigration and Islamization in Europe, I think that people, atheists, Christians, pagans have stand together to defend our common heritage, and I think that every patriot, every conservative at the moment needs to stop with in my views at the moment, useless in-group fighting and unite against the most common, most imminent threat, that is massive immigration and Islamization.
Martin Sellner, thank you for coming on with us.
Thank you. That given this unexpected nature of the interview, that maybe I will not want you to publish it, and you can write about it if you want, like an article that's of course free for you. But I can of course as a person deny you the right to publish this interview, but I have to wait what other guys of our movement are thinking about it. So you will not publish this video.
I don't know about that, Martin. I mean, we did this interview, and I don't see why I can't publish it. I'll send it to you.
If I don't want you to publish it, and you publish it, I can take it down all the time I want.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
But it's not going to be just on YouTube though. It's going to be on other video formats.
I will not. I don't care too much about it. You can do that, but before that, I will talk. I want to reconsider it with the other identitarians. You know.
Martin, I asked you to come on. You did the interview. I asked you questions. You gave your answers. It's fair enough.
Yeah, but you know, yeah, but I think that this kind of questions, or this kind of I can say, you know, this kind of aggressive style of asking questions, I think it was a very unfair and very biased interview, you know, and I think that
I disagree with you. Let's just let the viewers decide. I mean, we'll post the interview up, let the viewers decide, you know, which one is right, and then that's it. I mean, I gave you the final word. I allowed you to talk. I rarely ever really interrupted you. We had a civil discussion.
Yeah, of course, we had. But you know,
I never insulted
as you have an agenda, and
you said I'm stupid. I mean, I never insulted you. Sorry? I never insulted you, Martin. I mean, you're the one who was saying, "Oh, yeah, that my view is stupid." I mean, if anybody was doing the insults, it was you.
Well, I think that this you know, this intention you had here, but I think that your the things you in a way said, and and you insulted me of thinking or
never
being
insulted
associated to also were insultations, and I think they were weighing. They were much heavier, you know, than what I said.
I never insulted you, Martin. I asked questions pertaining to things that I found on the Identitarian website. I said, this guy's talking about the Yasukuni Shrine. This is what's in the Yasukuni Shrine. It has war criminals.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have now talked long enough.
All right,
I think
I
you
think
have a
so
lot of
too.
things to do. I do as well.